Hello and welcome to another Typical Boro podcast. I'm your host, Steve Dixon. Could ask you all to keep subscribing to the podcast, much appreciated. And remember, you can always catch us on the Red Radio every Tuesday, 6 till 7. I'm pleased to say today, unlike Middlesbrough, I have a full strength team, full of pride, full of passion. As always, it's Mr. Graham Bandera and Mr. John Cutler. You all right, boys?
All good.
Good. Right. If anybody's tuned in for some positivity on the podcast, now is probably a good time to switch off. If you want some honest truth, some what's happening at Middlesbrough Football Club, stay here for the next hour. We'll start with, obviously, the match yesterday against Norwich. I met you boys at the ground, seniors, before the game. It couldn't have got off to a better start, in my opinion, watching the Luton Town game in the concourse, praying for a Luton Town victory. Well, Middlesbrough got that with a last-minute Luton winner, which nearly took the concourse roof off with the cheers. It was probably the loudest cheer of the day. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to inspire the Borough. So, after the game yesterday, our manager, Michael Carrick, was asked about the Luton result. And I'm just going to bring you boys in on this before we get into the game. They asked him about what was the result inspiring from the Luton result? Was it a, give the players a boost? And Michael Carrick said, "It's not something we spoke about in the dressing room. Our focus was on us. It's never a case of this is our day because something has happened. It's just about what we do." Well, me and you, John, were discussing before the game when Luton scored what a boost that was going to be to the players and the squad and the management team. You couldn't have asked for anything better to energise the stadium. Didn't energise Michael Carrick, John?
No, to be honest, whether he said it or not, I think players will have the phones there. I think they'll have been aware of the result, or the bulk of them will anyway. So, yeah, it's just another bit of a strange comment, but yeah, don't really believe it, to be honest.
Bandy?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of relying on other results. I think he's right in the sense where he says the focus is on us and what we have to do. But we knew what we had to do irrespective of what happened down at Luton. So you've got to go and win the game, and we didn't do that, sadly. But there's too much talk about reliance on other teams. We're even talking about next week if Blackburn lose and Millwall lose. It's all tosh. You just got to go and do your job and then hope that it all clicks into place for you. And I just don't trust us to ever put in an open goal, honestly. We've had so many open goals to just tap them over the line and we haven't done it. So we've only got ourselves to blame. So all this talk about other teams, it's garbage. It's
been that whole season. We've shot ourselves in the foot so many times. We've got no toes left. Obviously Norwich yesterday, there was a couple of changes to the lineup. Dale Fry came in surprisingly for Rav Vandenberg, who has picked up another injury in training. We'll not get into that again. It's just a joke now for me. And Kelechi Iheanacho came in for Marcus Forss, which was another point of contention in the stands. It was Middlesbrough's 22nd new back four of the season in the league. 22 different back fours in the league, which is a hell of a statistic. What were your thoughts on the starting lineup, Graham?
It is what it is these days. Whoever plays never normally makes an impact. I just think we've got a bang average team, and whoever comes in isn't going to suddenly transform us into sort of playoff contenders. We're so average, it's untrue, no matter what system or formation he picks. Seeing Iheanacho come back, I was I had a little bit of hope for him because he's had a kick in. He's been garbage, and he needs to do something to arrest that. And I thought, okay, he's trying to change the dynamic a bit, get the ball wide, get the ball into him, try and get him to link up with Conway. It worked quite well at Blackburn. And then for some reason, he just went the other way and turned garbage again. But he had a terrible game. He was awful. So he made no impact whatsoever. And like I say, whoever comes in now, it's all a bit of an irrelevance. Just apathetic. There's no one there to sort of turn a game to give us any dynamism, to make an impact, to impose ourselves on the opposition. Spoke all season since Doak's, departure that we've got no width and we're so narrow, it's untrue. Even Jack Wilshere sort of predicted how we were going to play, and that's exactly how we played. It doesn't work. We just need better players, or he needs to sort of revamp the system a little bit to try and get behind teams. We didn't get behind them at all yesterday, and that was the crux of the problem for me. It was just so easy for them to sit in, defend like every other team does at the Riverside, and then pick us off on the counter. They weren't great, but they were better than I thought they would be. He had them organised. They hit Sargent long at times, and then they got runners around them. The right winger was decent. Obviously, Borges Shines causes a few issues, but I thought we dealt with him relatively well. I thought Dicey had a half-decent game, but we're only looking at 6 out of 10s all over the pitch. In a game of that magnitude where we had to win, you got to bust a gut and bust a lung to sort of produce something and get over the line. There's nothing there. So going back to team selection, I don't think it matters now, because I don't think we've got the personnel or the players to make that impact. They're trying. You've got to give them credit for trying, but that is it. That's the bare minimum. But they don't do anything much after that. They're just so wasteful in possession. Balls hit too long, balls hit too short. We hit so many balls yesterday that were just telegraphed and intercepted, and they picked us off. It was just lackluster. It was apathetic. We needed more. We needed more drive from players, and it just wasn't there. Hackney tried. Morris tried to keep going, but he tired. Howson just looks like he's on his last legs now. I mean, he had a half-decent game, dealt with them fairly well, but even some of his passes was passing was way off yesterday, and I think he just typified the attitude of sort of the rest of the team, because it just wasn't going to happen for us. Could have played till midnight and not scored, and it was a case of when are they going to score, but thankfully they didn't.
Bandy touches on the formation. We're easy to play against. Cuts. He's touched on. He didn't think that the real commitment and drive and determination to win a big game like yesterday was there. What were your thoughts on middle? Because I thought the crowd, started off behind the team because they were buzzing because of the Luton result. The atmosphere was there at the start of the game. Did you see the commitment and passion that you wanted from the start, Cuts?
Well, I think if you look at, there was numerous 50-50 challenges yesterday, but it wasn't 50-50 challenge. It was just Norwich going in for balls and us not bothering, trying to put a foot in. That's one of my biggest bugbears, and it's something we've been missing all season. We talked at half time yesterday. Iheanacho would have been off. I'd put Howson into midfield to try and help the other two midfielders who worked really hard. Fair play to them. But I'd have had Howson into midfield. But he won't change his formations. Just stuck on it. It's just bringing other players off the bench to play the same formation, which is the same problems because we're not getting the ball wide enough. It's not working. Teams are sitting in. If one team was going to win the game yesterday, it was Norwich. I think that's a fact. So yeah, for me, I would have had extra midfielder in, try and win a bit of the ball. But he won't do it. He'll never do it. If he's here 10 years, he'll never change the formation. And for me, that's not good enough.
I think, to be fair, if it wasn't for Mark Travers, Norwich might have nicked an away win. I thought
Yeah.
he was really good. He's been a real positive for his Mark Travers this season. So credit to him for yesterday. That was a positive, how good he's been since he's came to the club. So we're talking about what's wrong, and you've both mentioned the tactical side. And you look at the front four yesterday that we had. We started with obviously Conway and Iheanacho behind, Zaz left, Whittaker right, switching about a little bit. I'm getting a bit concerned moving forward for next season. Looking at Middlesbrough's squad, we really are looking like a side that's lacking in pace, lacking in width, players who can change a game. Very slow, very easy to play against. Teams know, like Graham said, if you come and sit in against Middlesbrough, everything that Middlesbrough do goes through the middle. We've got a squad which is hampered, in my opinion, with too many what you'd call inverted wingers. It's becoming a bit of a pet hate of mine, this inverted winger malarkey in football. I grew up on the days of watching, people get chalk on the boots, whether it be Stuart Ripley or a John Hendry. In the later years, even like a Muzzy Carriol or a Dharma Traore, somebody that could get wide, get past the player and get crosses in. Now, I know we've lost Ben Doak, and he did do that for, which was great. But if you look at the Middlesbrough squad now, whether it's Zaz, whether it's Whittaker, whether it's Force, whether it's McGree, they're all players that want to come inside, come into the middle, and we just get cluttered through the middle. And teams know this now, and know if they can sit in let Middlesbrough come inside. They can pick off on the break. In Norwich, with a bit more fortune yesterday, would have done exactly that. I'll come to you, Graham, first. Are you a little bit concerned moving forward with this Middlesbrough side? Lack of pace, lack of width?
I'm very concerned at the moment. I don't mind going back to the system. I don't mind the system. There's a hell of a lot of teams playing that system now, and it's proved successful for them. I just think we need better personnel to play that system. The 4-2-3-1, I don't think it's going to shift away from that in any way, shape or form. But we do need better players in them wide positions. You've mentioned Dork, disaster losing him. Season went south so the minute he was out of that team. And we've never recovered, in my opinion. We've never recovered from losing Lath because we had that pace up top. So they're the two key dynamics for me is why the season's gone as bad as it's gone. But in terms of the inverted wingers, we've just got players that've got no propensity to take on the fullback. They're scared. They daren't. They don't trust themselves to do it. They're obsessed with coming in and linking up play with a 10. But that 10 cannot be in Iheanacho. It's got to be Azaz. So he's hanging Azaz, a perfectly good player. King of assists, king of goals this season. He's had a good season in terms of productivity. But he's out of position on the left. Hung out to dry. May as well be grazing in the field somewhere because he's not having an impact. He'll be so paid off playing on that left. That's why he drifts in. His natural tendency is to come in, and then you've got three players basically playing 5 yards next to each other, no width. I can understand why he likes to play inverted wingers because he expects his fullbacks to push on. But sadly, we've got fullbacks or wingbacks, whatever you want to call them, who've got no legs. They can't get forward. Illian Jr. yesterday was atrocious. I could see after 5 minutes it wasn't going to be his game. For some reason, he didn't look fit. Maybe he's picked up an injury, but he had to play him because we've got no one else. He brought Giles on too late. To his credit, Giles played well when he come on. We actually got the ball into the box quite quickly, and if something had bounced for us, we might have got a winner. But I just don't think we've got the players to play the system, but I don't have too much of an issue with the system. It's worked before when we've had better players. When we've had Akpom as a 10, dropping deep, spinning, banging it wide, getting in the box, getting headers in, getting shots off. It's not working because we've got an immobile slug as a number 10. And I can't bear to watch him anymore because he's so lethargic. It's untrue. And as fans, you can't be watching players like that just not putting in a shift. He got through yesterday. All he had to do is put his left boot through it. And then he decided to take an extra touch. Then he ended up falling over. So I'd have hooked him then. But Carrick's got it. He's got to try these things. But he's tried so many options this season. He could try another 25 options. He could try another 22 defensive formations. It's not going to work until we get better recruitment. And that is the crux of the matter for me, recruitment. It needs a serious root and branch in the summer. And we've got to see some transparency between the recruitment team and the manager. Because I think, despite his faults, I can talk an hour about Carrick's faults if you want, but I think a lot of it's been carried by him because of what he's trying to cover up. He's trying to cover up bad players. You telling me he rates Iheanacho? Not a chance. There's some of the players he's played with Wayne Rooney, played with Tevez, played with Ronaldo. He can't look at Iheanacho and think, yeah, he's the man for me. He's just covering up for them. He's covering up for bad, average players. Force. Just given an opportunity, doesn't make an impact. Playing as out position, just switch it around a bit, but he's probably tried that and it hasn't worked. So I think he's scratching his head now until he sits down in the summer and draws up a list of proper quality players to play their positions. We're just going to be flitting around 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, go even lower if you want.
Cuts. Bandy's making a point about the formation. You know, he's a fan of the formation. He's not a fan of the personnel. What's your thoughts? I'll ask you first on the formation moving forward for Middlesbrough Football Club. And secondly, I'll ask you another question, which we discussed a little bit yesterday briefly. Is part of the problem Michael Carrick not having the plan B when things aren't working with his plan A?
Well, we know that Graham's quite happy for Michael to be next season. So my question is, if you haven't got the players to play the formation, why are you playing the formation?
Because
that's not Kevin Scott. That's not Kevin Scott. That's not Steve Gibson. That's Michael Carrick, knowing what he's got, and still, for the whole season, when we've seen it since Christmas, not working. So why isn't it changing?
Because I think that's the best possible formation he can play to get results. I don't believe another going maybe 3-5-2 now, so changing tact. I don't think it would get any better results. I just think he's sort of scratching around. He's writing names on the back of a fag packet now. That's how he's picking teams because he doesn't have the players that he wants at his disposal. We've lost two key players. He's had the rug pulled from beneath him this season, nearly once, and then it happened the second time with Lath. destroyed our season, destroyed any momentum. Ask any player, they will think, why are we selling our best players? They must just think, well, I'm going to down tools now. There's no point. What's the actual aim this season? Is it to try and get promoted with an average team, or are you going to keep your best players and give yourselves the best fighting chance of maintaining a playoff spot? I know Lath was hit and miss this season, and he did produce, but trust me, if he knew he was staying all season and getting a better move this summer, we would have seen far more productivity from him and more points on the board. The Doak thing was a disaster. Losing him was critical to the way the season went, but Lath been a big problem for me mentally and psychologically. It's just not worked for us. I think it's been damaging, and I think it's killed Carrick, to be honest, this season. You're losing your best player. Happened the season before with Rodgers. Happens too often.
I'll just bring a stat in for you, Graham, regarding this, because I was quite surprised to see this stat, and I'm going to give somebody some credit at Borough Lee 86 off X, because it is his stat.
Yeah.
And he come in and he said, Borough with Latty Alat and Ben Doak this season, we've played 30 games. Points per game was 1.47. Borough without Latty Alat and Ben Doak, 14 games, points per game, 1.36. So if you extrapolate that up, so they've played the same amount of games for the season, it means Middlesbrough would only be 1.5 points better off if we'd had them playing. So to me, that was quite an amazing stat, because I thought obviously that was a huge, but in my opinion, it still is a big loss losing them for the season because of what it gives with. But in terms of points, when they were playing compared to when they're not playing, it hasn't really changed Middlesbrough's results very much, is the point I'm making. Which again shows that maybe we're looking at the wrong faults in the team and the engine. We're discussing formation, we're discussing pace, we're discussing width. Maybe it's the back four. Maybe it's the back four on good enough.
Of course, they've proved that all season. You just can't trust any of them. Even when you think they're playing well, there's a mistake there and it costs you the game. You're not going to score every week. We're third top scorers in the league, by the way. So I don't think we can criticise the amount of goals we've scored.
Yeah,
it's
well, I've got some stats. I've got some stats later on for you as well to show where the problem might lie as well. Regarding Michael Carrick yesterday, the season was hanging by a thread. Second half, substitutions. Iniacho off on 61, Marcus Force on 78 minutes. Giles and Bergzog on for Illing Jr. and Whittaker. Like for like, no change to the formation. The only thing that he actually changed in the game, which he's done the last couple of weeks, is very late on, let's chuck Dale Fry up front to see if he can get his head on something. Dale Fry, who's played 213, 214 games for Middlesbrough, scored twice. He went up front, actually, he was an absolute waste of time. He was a nuisance. All he done was give away free kicks at critical times, back to Norwich to waste time. We have got to have a better plan B than sticking Dale Fry up front. Why not go 4-3-3? Like John said, why not push Johnny Howson into midfield? Take a chance, stick two up front. He's got no plan B. Yesterday, you look at the bench. Now, I know we've got players missing through injury. Michael Carrick's got his bench to pick those still. We must have some young players at the club in forward areas or wide players that he could have thrown on the bench that might have just come on for the last 20 minutes, injected a bit of passion, a bit of pace into the team. Michael Carrick's bench he picked yesterday. Glover, goalkeeper. Borges, who apparently wasn't fit enough to play, defender. Edmondson, defender. Lenihan, who apparently can't play, he's not fit enough, defender. Giles, defender. Barlassa, what do you want to call him? Waste of space. On the bench, McCabe, young lad, hasn't really featured much this season. Like for like, and Force and Bergzog. That was the only options we had left, yesterday to use. He used Force and Bergzog. That was the only options we've had yesterday to bring on to try and change a game. It was drifting away from it. Surely we've got better than that on the bench.
I think we've let two perfectly capable options go in Callum Kavanagh at Bradford City, who's found form and possibly a late developer, and Josh Coburn at Millwall. So they're two options we could have, but we haven't got, unfortunately. So I just think Carrick's making a bit of a statement to recruitment, if I'm honest. He's going to line his subs with defenders and say, look, you've pointed out the obvious, Dicko. There is no plan B. There's no option. He hasn't got them. He may as well put Travers up front and put Fry in goal if you're going to go down putting Fry up front. It's a joke. His first touch was a foul, and the second one he handballed it. You can't have players out of position like that. It's just shambolic. It might work for Man United with Harry Maguire, but he's a far better footballer. So, yeah, can't be doing that.
One other player I can throw in the mix, Graham, that it looked a good decision at the time in terms of finance, but I think with the injuries to Doak and with the injuries to Lat, I think now losing Isaiah Jones is a bit of a mistake. Isaiah Jones, he's done okay for Luton. He's quick. He's got pace. He's got everything we miss at the minute, which is somebody that can carry the ball 20 yards up the pitch with a bit of pace. So I think even losing Isaiah Jones to add to Doak and Lat on reflection is probably a mistake, because would Isaiah Jones get in the team right now? In my opinion, 100% he would. Would Josh Coburn get in the team right now? 100% he would. And these are the decisions that have been made behind the scenes, which is all part of why the season has gone wrong, both on the pitch and off the pitch. End of the game. Go on, Graham. Go on.
I'd like to agree with you about Jones, but I thought he was given enough opportunity to make an impact, and he looked like he was a rabbit in the headlights. He was scared. He looked like he didn't even want to be playing here anymore, and he couldn't stomach taking on a fullback. He just needed a new lease of life. He's took his chance. He's doing well at Luton. Good luck to him. Sometimes players do need to move on and start again, basically. But it just wasn't working for him here. I think in hindsight, it's easy to say, "Oh yeah, we need Jones back," but it was awful pretty much most of the season. He had a really good spell when he sort of burst onto the scene, if to use the phrase, but he never really kicked on, in my opinion. Showed flashes, showed promise.
I don't disagree. The point I'm trying to make is whether he was struggling at the start of the season. He looked like he couldn't take a man on. I had no problem with him being out the side, but if we'd have kept him, he could have built his confidence back up, and we could have used him now when we need him. The same as Josh Coburn, when we need him, we could have used him, and we could have moved them on in the summer if they're not Michael Carrick's men. But at the moment, losing both of them to me looks a poor decision. Looking like we're going to miss out in the playoffs. Yeah. That could cost us a hell of a lot of money.
On paper, in terms of their capabilities, it would have been nice to have that luxury yesterday, being able to bring them on. But you can't guarantee that they're going to perform. So, but I do see your point, Dicko. He's a nice player on form. He's a terrific little player. But as I say, I wish him well. Sometimes you need to just move on and start again somewhere.
Andy, you wanted to make a point about the end of the game yesterday. I didn't stay for the lap of dishonour. I was, as soon as the final whistle went, I was gone back to Newcastle. What was you were disappointed with the fans' reaction at the end? Some booing at the end of Michael Carrick and the players.
Yeah, I just think booing's uncalled for. Save that for the pantomime. I mean, the last time I booed, I think, was at Wembley in '97 Cup final. Booing the FA for deducting 3 points off us. That came to no avail. I just think it's counterproductive, pointless, and it looks a bit embarrassing. Grown men booing. I don't understand why. Boo the referee if you want, but don't boo your own. Never boo your own players. Never. It just doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen. So I was a bit disappointed with that. But in terms of the general reception, I thought it was expected. You know, it's customary to walk around the pitch, applaud the supporters for their efforts and their endeavours. And I think the players, they're not stupid. Carrick's not stupid. He knew what sort of response he was going to get. It was going to be muted. They could take that. They're big enough to take that on the chin. But booing, I just thought it was over the mark, pointless and counterproductive. I didn't like it.
What's your thoughts on the booing at the end?
Well, are we supposed to show you disapproval then? It's the end of the game. It's not during the game. So what do? Just stand there, clapping, applauding them, thanking them for what they've done. When we're sat here the next day, criticising what they're doing. Let's just all stand there then, sing the names, clap, say well done, and we'll put up with the same next season, finishing 9th.
Just walk, just leave it, just go. You don't need to boo. It's just like it makes you look daft. If you look in the mirror and boo, how stupid do you look? Honestly, it doesn't look right.
I didn't do it personally, but I totally understand why. I totally understand why fans are doing it though.
I've got to say, I do agree.
£510. £510 for an adult season ticket. We live in an area, not an affluent area, where people are working hard to go and watch football that is not good enough. You can sit here and talk about that he's not being backed. Well, I've mentioned loads of times top 4 in the wage bill in the Championship, and we're behind on points to Millwall, Blackburn, 9th in the league. It's not good enough. So you're not just booing Carrick and the players. Maybe you are booing Kieran Scott and Gibson as well because they're making decisions. Let's just stand there and clap and applaud them. Well done. Well done for what? It's a completely wasted season. They're all grown men. Well, they're going to go home and be crying because they've been booed by some fans.
Well, if you flip that,
no.
Grown men in the stands are crying because we didn't get what we want. It's like throwing your toys out the pram. I want to finish playoffs. I want to finish top 2. If you don't, you don't. Tough. Go again next time and try and make it better. Look for reasons why it's failed. I just don't think the booing looks good. It's crap, honestly. It's embarrassing.
Do we just sit there and accept it then? Do we just sit there and accept it then, Graham?
You'd think we'd been relegated yesterday and we're in the League 1 or League 2. All we've done is just not won at home. We didn't even get beat. We're actually a little bit unlucky second half. Hit the post, Morris. Tried knocking on the door. Just wouldn't happen. Like I said, we could have played till midnight, but they were so well organised. We just don't have that clinical ability up front to finish teams off. We weren't that bad yesterday. We played worse and won. So
they're not booing them. They're not booing them because of yesterday's game, though, Graham, are they? They're booing them for being 3-0 up at home against Sheffield Wednesday and throwing it away. Absolutely battering Derby away from home, losing 1-0. It's not. It's just a build. It's just a build up of frustrations, Graham, from the whole season that we're lucky enough to get on air on a Sunday and vent our spleen. Some people haven't got any other way of showing how unhappy they are with what's going on. And for me, I don't see a massive problem with it. Like I said, I don't do it myself. I'd already gone. I'm not going to sit there while they're doing it. They can change it to a lap of appreciation or whatever. It's a lap of honour. It's a load of malarkey. Just something you didn't used to do that in the 80s.
You said you'd already gone.
It off.
You said you'd already gone. Right? You said you'd already gone. That's fine. That's your way of protesting. But the ones that were hanging about like a bad smell. Get them out the ground. We don't want them booing. It's counterproductive. It's wrong. Never boo your own players. They're trying. You wouldn't want to be booed at work, would you?
To be fair, in our jobs, Graham, if we'd have done what they'd have done this season, we wouldn't be in our jobs.
No, we've underperformed.
We've sat here for months and months criticising players. We've sat here for months and months and criticised players, management, the recruitment team or whatever. Would we have our jobs if we'd have underperformed as what they have this season? No, we wouldn't. It doesn't matter what job you're in. If you're in a highly paid job or a minimum wage job, if you're massively underperforming, you're not in that job. Well, it's a completely different world. I'm not going to get booed in my job for what I do, but it's completely different. It's sport. It's not just football that it happens. It happens in other sports. You look in America.
At what line do you draw underperforming and overperforming? Where is the balance? Where's that level where you think, oh, I've got a right to boo now? You know, it was 7th, 8th, 9th.
Hey, boys, I thought that Eubank versus Ben was going to be the best fight I've seen this weekend. I was mistaken. I'm just going to come in the middle and just break his up for a minute. But what it's worth, I come down on the side of cuts on this one. I think you pay your money, you do what you want. I think the fans have been, in my opinion, tremendously patient with them. I think there's many fan bases would have lost it with the team far earlier in the season, and the fact that they left it until the end of the game and the game was finished, to me, you paid your money, you do what you want. I've got no problem with it. What I would like to bring in, just because of this, I think there's Bandy saying, where's the line? Where do you draw the line of success and failure? Well, it's a funny one because it seems like we're having a good season to people on the outside. It seems like we're just on the periphery of the playoffs and people don't understand why the fans are getting upset. So I'll just throw a few stats in just for a bit, for people who are listening who don't, maybe realise how the season's gone compared to previous seasons. So first of all, since Christmas Day, Middlesbrough have won 8 games out of 23, losing 10 and drawing 5. Our home form this season, we've played 23 games at the Riverside and won 11. Only 6 teams in the division have won less home games than that. Only 6. So I also went a bit further and I thought, well, how does this season compare to previous championship seasons under Michael Carrick and different managers? So I'll go back 10 years to 2014-15 for comparison. That was the season under Carrick when we got to the playoffs and failed against, yes, Norwich again. So that season under Carrick, we had 85 points. The season after, when we got promotion under Carrick, we had 89 points. The season after, 76, 73, 53, which was the Jonathan Woodgate season, 64, which was Warnock, when he took after Woodgate, then 70, then 75 under Carrick, 69 last season, and at the minute we're on 64. So points-wise, barring the Jonathan Woodgate season, in the last 10 years, we're currently on the worst points of the last 10 years, apart from the Woodgate season. So then I thought I'll look at wins. So I moved to wins for them 10 seasons. This season, Middlesbrough have got 18 wins. Apart from the Woodgate season, which was 13 wins, this season is the lowest wins we've had in that period of time since 2014. Then you look at goals against. How many goals we've conceded? We've conceded 62 goals this season. That's the worst in those 10 years. Even in the Woodgate season, we conceded 61. Now, those stats show that maybe why this frustration is building up within the fan base, because what we keep getting told is that Middlesbrough are a team with we've got a plan with Kieran Scott, we've got a plan on recruitment, selling on with bigger assets, we're pushing for the playoffs under Michael Carrick. But the reality is, what the fans are watching on the pitch, week in, week out, is no better than we've seen. In fact, it's worse than what we've seen, generally, over the last 10 years. The stats prove that. Under Michael Carrick, we've seen we go from 75 points to 69 points last season, to 64 points this season. So year on year under Carrick, we're getting worse. The fans are looking to next season and looking at the squad we've got now, which we've just discussed, and how we're going to move forward with Michael Carrick and his formations and his tactics and the playing squad. And there's no belief there. So, in my opinion, the fans have got every right to feel the way they're feeling at the moment under Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough, and have got the right to question whether Michael Carrick should be at this football club next season. I'll just come to you quickly. Surprised by those stats, boys?
No.
Not particularly, no. No, I think we're a team that's mid-table championship. That's our level. That's where we're at. With a bit of luck, certain seasons, we get a bit of investment. We get lucky with some good players. We manage to keep these players. We push on. We hit the higher echelons of the division. We sometimes have a promotion assault. But this is us. This is who we are. We've got no divine right to demand that we should be getting promoted. We've always been in this situation. When I first started watching in '83, we were crap. And at the moment, we're just as crap now. And we probably will be as crap in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, 40 years' time. This is our level. This is what we're at. We only occasionally flirt with promotion. We've had some bad relegation seasons where we've been rescued. Woodgate, Warnock come and rescued us. So it's not as if we've been brilliant consistently. We just need to, seriously, I think we just need to look at the recruitment and improve it and get better players. Good players make a better manager.
We've got
manager will tell you that.
We've got some fans' questions.
Good managers make average players better as well. So you can flip that.
I don't believe you can polish a turd, but there you go.
I've heard that.
We all discussed at the start of the season. Was the squad good enough to make the playoffs minimum? And we would have all said yes. And I still maintain that belief that this squad should be in the playoffs. As much as they've underperformed, they should be in the playoffs.
So when Carrick hit that 75 point mark, yeah, and then he slowly regressed. 60, 69 was it? And then 60,
69 and then 64 season.
Yeah. Has he got progressively worse, or have his personnel got progressively worse?
I would say both. If I'm being brutally honest, I think the playing squad is not as strong now, obviously, as it was his first season. I would argue that the squad this season is stronger than last season, but I'd also argue that Michael Carrick himself as a manager has regressed. His tactics hasn't changed.
I wouldn't say
He's too stubborn. Like John said, he's got a playing style, a playing squad that don't suit his playing style. So you've got to use what you've got to your maximum. And
which
Michael
is what we've
Carrick,
been talking about, and we haven't got it.
but Michael Carrick won't change. So if it's not working, try something else. Change your tactics, change your formation, change it up. He's not prepared to do that. So he's playing with round pegs and square holes. It's never going to work.
Do you think he's stubborn enough to not change it, or do you think he's actually scratched his head and thought, "What can I change it to? What is going to work?" He has tried three at the back, and it worked successfully.
He done it last season. He done it last season when we struggled with injuries, and he went to 4-3-3 for some games, and we beat Leicester away. I remember vividly. He's never tried that this season. He's never tried like what me and John were saying yesterday. Why not just push Johnny House into midfield and stick 3 in midfield and go 4-3-3 for the second half? Just try something different. Ironically, Neil Madison on the radio when I was driving home last night, he was on about going to Coventry, and he said if we go to Coventry and play the same formation again at Coventry, we'll get battered. He said if he's Michael Carrick, he's got to change it. He's got to change his formation, try something different.
I completely agree, but I'm not sure what he can change it to suddenly turn us into a miles better team.
Right. So my question, you and Graham, my question, you and Graham is, if you don't think you can change it to something different that's going to work, but you know what you're doing isn't going to work, what harm is there then trying to change it? At least the fans would see you as a manager trying something different. At least they would say, well, he knows it's not working in the guise it is at the moment, but at least Michael's trying. He's changed the formation to that. He's changed the formation to this. He's moved personnel around. So that would shift a little bit of the blame from me, of my manager, because he's trying. And if what he's got isn't good enough, that's a different argument. But as a manager to sit there week after week after week, doing the same thing and failing is just madness.
It's probably a bit of fear, because if he did change it and we got picked off within 5 minutes, the game's done. So then he's got to think, now what do I do? So I just think he's throwing the dice at the moment. He's a bit annoyed that he hasn't got the players to play his system. His system is failing him because, like I said, the players aren't there. With better players, it's been proven that system does work. I just think he's to blame as well. It's a collective. It's not just him. It's the hierarchy as well. No one's knocking on their door and mentioning about them. He's been sold down the river, in my opinion, but he does need to learn. But I would still stick with him.
Well, before I'm going to come to you, Cuts, because it's a key issue this for you, because you'll know where I'm coming from here. Bandy's just said there he would still stick with Michael Carrick this summer because he thinks he's a good enough manager to get it right eventually. We differ in that opinion. One name that's come available, which happened just after last week's podcast, is somebody you love, John Cutler, which is Tony Mowbray. Tony Mowbray is now available. And just for naughtiness, I'm just throwing it in the mix to you, both of you, actually. Would you entertain Tony Mowbray coming back to this football club, either as a manager to replace Michael Carrick, or as an assistant to stand alongside Michael Carrick, or to come back to the football club just in some capacity behind the scenes regarding recruitment and young players?
Well, you can sit and talk about Juninho, but the greatest player I've ever seen for this football club is Tony Mowbray. He's one of us. Now, would I have him back as a manager? Probably not. But I would certainly have him a job in this football club. If he would accept an assistant manager's role, I would have him in all day long. But whether it's to stand next to Michael Carrick or not is a completely different matter. So I just want to make a quick point when you mentioned about us being 9 points off than last season. Not only are we 9 points off, the championship this year, and we've all said it, is considerably weaker than what it was last year. So the actual difference of 9 points is bigger than what it was last year. Apart from the top two, there's no quality in this championship, and that includes us.
Yeah, well, this time last season, Middlesbrough would have been, the season would have been done and dusted if won 64 points. This season, we've still got a chance. So that does suggest that, the also-rans this season are weaker than last season. We've missed a huge opportunity. We know that. But it's where we go from here. Bandy, would you consider Tony Mowbray back at this football club?
No. As much as I love him, he's a fantastic guy. Worked wonders for this football club. through the darkest of times, but he's had his chance here now, and I would never go back. Juninho's a different example. He's a player. He's probably still wounded from the last sacking at Boro, because that didn't end well. And no, not a chance. And I don't think I think his pride wouldn't allow him to be an assistant. He's far more capable than that. I would like to see him take a bit more time out. I think he was rushed back into the West Brom job. He's had a torrid time with illness. He's managed to get himself back to health, but I'm not quite sure he's ready yet to go back into management. Certainly not at Middlesbrough Football Club, because it's just not right for him. No, I wouldn't like to see it, for most.
We're going to go into some questions from fans. I put a question out on X, so I thought you guys could field a few questions from our listeners, if that's okay by you.
Great, yeah, bring them on.
Let's go, Graham.
Come on, I'm winning on points. What's the judges say at the moment? Am I up or down?
It's close. It's close. Right, we'll start with Andrew. Andrew said he looked down at the dugout yesterday and Ledbetter was out snarling and angry whilst Carrick just stood with his arms behind his back. No urgency from the coach is showing in the performance. The crisp, quick passing came from the opposition and we saw how effective it was. TC, how have we ended up with a team which is the opposite of what our area is renowned for, hard work and heart? Paul McLean, I didn't watch yesterday. I was done after Sheffield Wednesday. My 19-year-old son did, reminding me so much of myself at that age. Still hoping we will do it. That's always been the Borough over the years. We are mediocre. And it would be worse next season if we don't get rid of this gutless. He says gutless. I think he means the manager, I think. Nick asks, which of our current squad are worthy of a team that could finish in the top 2 of the Championship? He thinks Travers and Hackney on a good day. Who else?
Definitely
I'd put
Travers.
Morris into that.
Definitely Travers. Definitely Hackney. Definitely Morris.
I think Conway is capable of being in a team that's in the top 2 as well, myself, personally.
I think if you can protect Azaz physically, i.e. get a couple of snarling dogs to play around him and protect him and give him the ball as often as you possibly can, he would flourish. He'd be a better player. He could go on to play Premier League football. Maybe the Championship's not suited to him. I could see Azaz at Brighton or Bournemouth being allowed that freedom to play and being protected by far better players. So there's 3 or 4. Travers definitely. Azaz for me. Morris and Hackney.
Martin Crowe says, just regarding that question, Martin Crowe says, every week Morris is the slowest player on the pitch, both in speed across the ground and his decision making. He takes an age on the ball, and then all he's got is a 5-yard sideways pass to Hackney. When he tries to do anything more expansive, he gives it away. Do we need an upgrade on Aidan Morris?
Clayton and Ledbetter any different? They were players that got the ball, controlled the ball, gave it. Boateng's another one. In fact, obviously, great player, Boateng. You need players in the team that are going to win the ball, get the ball, and give it to the more skillful players that we're going to create. So I don't have a problem with Morris. You don't have to be the fastest player in the world to play his position. Roy Keane wasn't the quickest player in the world. Vieira wasn't. You need players like Morris for me.
I agree, John. Morris is a recycler, distributor. He'll win it. He'll give it simple. But more often than not, I disagree with the question, because Morris looks for a forward pass. He plays disguise passes, and a lot of his passes go forward, which is a massive positive for us. But unfortunately, most of his forward passes were going to Iheanacho and they were coming straight back to him.
I do get where Martin's coming from slightly. I think since he's come back from his injury, he hasn't quite been as good as he was previously to his injury.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that, like you guys are saying, is down to personnel around him, because obviously before his injury, he had Doak, he had Latty-Alat around as well. So he likes a forward pass. If you've got Doak as an option, you've got Latty-Alat as an option.
Exactly.
I get what you're saying there. Jonathan Taylor, hi lads. My question, where's he disappeared to? My question is, where do you guys distribute the blame for this season being so underwhelming? Is it recruitment? Is it Carrick? Is it the squad? sales, injuries to key players. So he's like just asking basically, where do you put the blame, or the majority of the blame for this season's failure? Recruitment, Carrick, injuries, sales to players.
He's listed 4 characteristics there, and I agree with all of them. As I said earlier, I think it's a collective. You know, Carrick is culpable for a lot of things. Steve Gibson is as well. The recruitment team is as well. So they all need to sit down and have a long, hard look at themselves and work out what the plan is for next season, because it's got to happen quick. Can't let them all go off to Dubai for 2-3 weeks and come back all relaxed and everything will be fine next season, because it won't. The problems are staring us in the face. The alarm bells are ringing. Needs addressing now. You know, Trevor's got to be his first job in the summer. Go and get him signed as quick as we can. Ask Bournemouth how much they want for him and try and find it, because we need him. We need him as a starting point. If he were my starting point in the summer, then I build from the back rather than from the front. So there's a criticism of Carrick. I would probably say to twist it round and build from the back as opposed to the front, because we're just not building from the back. Whether that's down to recruitment, whether that's down to him making bad selections. Like you say, we've had 22 different defensive formations. You cannot build a successful season on them foundations of sand.
It's a good point you're making. It's one that Neil Madison made on the radio. Again, give Maddo a second mention. He mentioned that. He said, in his opinion, you should start at the back, goalkeeper, 100%. Defenders, and build forward. And he said basically the same. He finds Middlesbrough building it the wrong way around. Go on, Cuts, just come in.
I think all of them scenarios there that were mentioned, they're all to blame. But other than injuries, there's only one person that is in charge of every single one of them, and that's Carrick. Gibson and Scott can't do anything about what's said in the changing room and motivating players. So they're not involved in every single thing, but Carrick's involved in all the others, including players coming in. Don't think for 1 minute that Kieran Scott and Steve Gibson are bringing players in without Michael Carrick giving them a yes or a no, because I don't believe it for 1 minute. So he's the only one that's involved in all of them. So therefore, he's the leader of this football club. He's the one who's going to be the most to blame.
Could I ask a question, John and Dicko, to you both? Motivation, right? Does that come from someone telling you how to motivate yourself, or does it come from within? Because I think a lot of the players can't motivate themselves enough. I don't think there's enough players in that team who are comfortable in that team, because they don't know their futures, for one. How many loan players have we got who don't know where they're going to be playing next season? So they're happy to just go through the motions. And if they're asked to play, they'll play. And they'll be more than happy about it. But you need to know where your future lies. And that for me is a massive positive for you to, as a person, to be able to move forward. Hackney now, he doesn't know where he's going to be playing next season, because he won't know whether he's going or not, but I'm 100% certain he will be. So it can affect performances, and it can also get into the head of the manager, because he's completely baffled by the whole situation. We've just got like a really ragtag bunch of players that we can't assemble as a unit to move forward, and it's pitiful, really. We talked about this recruitment model being something we could move forward with, and Kieran Scott went on record and said, we're trying to get rid of the idea of using loan players and bring in players for the future who can be part of this football club for years to come. But we're not seeing that. And I think that needs to be discussed in the summer. And I think as fans, it would be nice to have a bit of transparency to see the relationship between the recruitment team and Carrick, to see who actually brings in these players and to see who actually ticks the box to sign them off. We don't know. We're all surmising. There's people online saying, that was Carrick's player, that was Scott's player. How do they know that? No one knows that. The chairman will know it, Carrick will know it, Scott will know it, but we don't. So it's. I just think we need more transparency. It's a bit agonizing, really, and infuriating that we don't know this. But I think we should be privy to a little bit more information as to how the model works. And I think fans might be less antagonized by it and a little bit more forgiving.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure I've heard Kieran Scott say in the past, there's not one player that will come into this football club without the manager ticking it off. Now, whether that's the recruitment team going to them with players and saying, look, we think he'll be really good for this football club. But I'm sure he said in the past, not one player comes in here without it getting ticked off by the manager. Whether it's Warnock, Wilder or now with Carrick.
Are they? Fair point. But do you think they're doing enough due diligence on these players? Are we bringing in the right calibre of player, the right player with the right mentality, with the cojones to see this division through? Or are they just happy to be technically gifted? And we're almost like a vanity project. Oh, look how fancy he is on the ball. But as soon as the tackle comes in on him, he doesn't want to know. Look at the players
Well,
where they don't have the ball.
I'll give you an example from this season then. Morgan Whittaker at Plymouth, in a team with less ability than what we've got.
Yeah.
Probably a manager that's not rated as highly by some as the one that we've got. Doing really well at Plymouth, scoring goals, assists, being motivated down there in a team that's fighting for their lives. Comes here, and I'm not writing him off, but has done absolutely nothing.
I agree.
So, can you blame the recruitment team for that? Because he was wanted by a team that is top of the league at the moment for £6 million, which in today's game is not an awful lot of money, but it is for this football club, and it's a decent outlay in the Championship. So therefore, is it not fair to ask the question that can the manager not get out of Morgan Whittaker what the manager of Plymouth was getting out of Morgan Whittaker? And if not, why not?
Possibly. You could also flip that and say, no disrespect to Plymouth, I would say they're a smaller club than us, but they're a fantastic club. Maybe he was the big fish in a small pond down there, and he's come up to Middlesbrough, and he's struggling. He's struggling mentally. He doesn't look like he can deal with the pressure of a bigger club and that expectancy level. I was expecting 5 or 6 goals from him already, and 2 or 3 contributions, assists. He's done nothing. £5 million or £6 million, whatever. At the moment, you'd take half of that and sell him.
If that's not the case, then have we not got the perfect manager who went from West Ham to Tottenham, then from Tottenham to Manchester United, and improved as a player? So we've got the perfect manager in charge to have a word with Morgan Whittaker, pull him to the side, and say, look, son, I went through exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but you can't. That's Carrick's nature. He's driven. He's a winner. Maybe Whittaker isn't. At the moment, he looks like a shrinking violet. He's not rising to the occasion. He needs to do more. I will give him more time because I like what he can do on the ball. But at the moment, he's not doing it often enough.
My opinion is, for what it's worth, boys, regarding Morgan Whittaker, you've both made good arguments. I would say it's still a fault with recruitment because he come in really to replace Ben Doak for next season. I don't think obviously that I don't know if the new Ben Doak was injured when they actually got Morgan Whittaker to come to the club.
It's quite a quick turnaround after, yeah.
Yeah, but he's coming to replace a player whose strengths is getting to the byline, pace, delivery, and he's a completely different player that hasn't got pace, likes to come inside. So that was a strange choice from the recruitment team to go after a player that's a complete opposite, to my opinion, to Ben Doak. Secondly, when he plays at Plymouth, he's got Mumba at fullback, who's quick, gets up and down the flank. He's got Bundu in front of him, who's quick. He's got players with pace around him, which give his strengths more kudos because he's got pace coming from behind, he's got pace in front, and Morgan Whittaker could float, come inside, get his shots off, get time on the ball, and look a really good footballer. He's come to Middlesbrough, and I think he's probably went, what am I playing with here? The fullback never goes past the halfway line. The midfielders just go sideways and backwards. We've got Iniacho to pass up to front. He doesn't move. Conway's not particularly quick. Finn Azaz, I know him from my Plymouth days. Player, played well with him at Plymouth, but I know myself, Finn Azaz doesn't move. He's not quick. So he's probably had a huge shock when he's come to Middlesbrough, thinking he was going to play with better standard of player in a better team, and he's probably looking at it and thinking, I'm not sure this team's any better than Plymouth. And now he's still got to do more. Don't get us wrong. He's been absolutely poor as far as I'm concerned. And I agree with you, Graham. If he doesn't improve, I'll be thinking, well, can we get him sent off somewhere else in the summer? Because if he's not going to improve, he's no good for Middlesbrough Football Club. No, we can't.
No, he's got to hit the ground running next season on that right hand side. But as an inverted winger, it's a completely different dynamic. You've obviously lost Doak, who used to drop his shoulder, come inside, or go outside, whereas Whittaker can't do both. He can only come inside on that left foot. And maybe he did have some good link-up play with Azaz when he was at Plymouth, because Azaz was obviously playing as the 10. But now he's on the other side of the pitch. He's going to need your binoculars to go to see him. There's no link-up there. And you can't link up with Iheanacho because he's not interested. And he'd be the quickest, and the quickest you'll see him this season will be out the door when the final whistle goes. And hopefully we'll never see him again. Because we can't start the season with him again. Because we'll be nowhere.
Just quickly having a quick look. One more question we'll get in. MC, the club has been kicking about at the same level for many years now and had many managers, coaches and players. Still no change. Only 2 people have stayed the same, Gibson and Bowser. What needs to happen to push us forward? Not saying Gibson out, by the way.
Great point. Like I was saying, we are who we are. We're 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th every single season. With a bit of luck, a bit of investment, we can push on. We've had some bloody good managers in the last 10 years. Chris Wilder, Neil Warnock. I had money on them getting us promoted, both of them. And it didn't work out for them. So ask yourself, why didn't it work out? Why they suddenly come to Middlesbrough and then they turn into bad managers? So it's not just the managers to blame. There's got to be other issues. Like I said, it's a collective. You know, I'm not protecting Carrick too much here. He is to blame. I would sit down with him in the summer if I could and say, why don't you change your system? Do you think you have the personnel to play that system? Why are the players weak-minded? Why don't we have that winning mentality? Why are they too soft? Why can't they tackle? Why are we a defensive shambles? But I think they're all issues that he can still look at and improve on and make us a better team. I don't think it's a sackable offence because of them issues. I think there's other reasons for our sort of, I would say, demise this season. We have gone back over.
Those stats I listed earlier, boys, about the championship over the last 10 years. And the worst stats, obviously, were this season and the Michael Carrick. And if they weren't, it was the season under Jonathan Woodgate. They're both the people in charge of this football club going into next season, Michael Carrick and Jonathan Woodgate. If we're going to keep Michael Carrick cut, do you think we need a change in the coaching staff behind the scenes? Or do you think we need a complete clear out in terms of management and coaching staff?
I don't see the manager staying if the owners tell him that Woodgate's going to be gone and Ledbetter's going to be gone and we're bringing in a whole new backroom staff. His brother. Would the manager stay if he was told that? I can't see it myself. I just think it's going to start with them. One thing I hope that if we do decide to get rid of Michael Carrick, I really hope the backroom staff goes well. Because they're the ones who were in his ear. They're the ones who he talks to about making so-called tactical substitutions, which aren't tactical substitutions. You're just replacing like for like. So they're as culpable. Not quite as much to blame as Carrick, but they are still to blame as well. So my one hope is that if he does go this time next week and we're talking about a new manager coming in, I hope it's the some of the certain backroom staff as well. Because for me, nothing against Jonathan, he was a great player. But how he failed at this football club as a manager to then come back as an assistant manager, for me, it was a strange decision in the first place. People say he was Middlesbrough supporter, blah, blah, blah. Yes, he was. But that doesn't matter. When he was manager, he massively failed. And to bring him back, for me, like I say, it was a very odd decision in the first place.
So we're looking now to go towards Coventry City next week. Last game of the season, possibly. Would you change the team next week, boys? Would you change the formation? Secondly, last question of the podcast. Can Middlesbrough do a miracle? Can we go to Coventry and win? Is there a possibility that, you know, we're going to get a favourable result from Sheffield United and Burnley? We are going to help. We're against Millwall and Blackburn, and we could have one of those dramatic last days where Middlesbrough come from nowhere and end up in the playoffs? Or is that just pie in the sky in dreamland, and it's just going to fizzle out with a defeat at Coventry, and then the inquest will start on the following day?
Well, with regards to changes, it might surprise you this, but one thing I'd do is I'd put Ryan Giles on the left of the three. We talked about players who'll get paint on the boots. There's one. We've talked about him defensively that he's not the best, but going forward he's good. We've seen him have loads of assists, so that's one thing I'd do. I'd be back in the number 10. Wouldn't even bother putting Iheanacho on the bench. Go for it. I'd bring Law McCabe in if he's fit. Play 3 in midfield as well. Because
good shout.
Just going with the same formations all the time, for me, I wouldn't do it. Go and give him a chance. Let him have a game.
Bandy, good shout by Cuts to bring McCabe in.
It's a very good shout, yeah. I personally wouldn't chuck him into a game of that magnitude, but I'd certainly have him on the bench and be looking to bring him on as early as I possibly could. Great shout with Giles. What I like about players is when they get a chance, they take it and they make an impact. And I thought he did really well. He looked a different player, actually, in that last, 20 minutes he got. So start Giles at left back. Zillian Jr. looked way off it. So bring Giles in. I'd keep the same system, familiarity, because that's all the players know. To start changing it around in 90 minutes of football, they won't know what the hell's going on. They're not capable. They're not mentally astute enough to adapt, I don't think. They're young. They're too young. They're too inexperienced. So I don't think they'll be able to suddenly switch to a completely different formation just to dig out one result. I'd go with the same formation and just keep fingers crossed. Play Giles, drop Iheanacho, don't even put him on the bench, spot on haircuts. Play Tommy up front, try and get the ball into him as early as possible in front of his feet. Don't ask him to hold the ball up or run channels. And then the right-hand sides, that's the problem. Obviously, bring Azaz into the 10, which is where he should have been all season and should never have been moved around. You probably have to go with
Bergzog, Force.
Marcus Force, even though I don't particularly rate him, but he at least can stay wide and he can at least fire a ball in at a given opportunity. So keep the same two midfield. Hackney Morris, Dyke Steele had a decent game against Borge Sainz. I thought he dealt with him fairly well, considering he had an absolute mare the game before. So he recovered well. So give him another chance. But yeah, I mean, it's still a bang average defence. And if Coventry get at us and they've got that mentality to win more than what we want to win, then they'll roll us over fairly comfortably, I think. So I don't see us winning the game. A draw at best, but the other results are irrelevant because we've shown all season that we're incapable of doing our own job.
Right, boys. Unbelievably, again, it's time. The sparring session's over. It's a score draw. It might be a rematch next Sunday. Brilliant to listen to. I just had to sit back and just watch it. I couldn't get a word in edgeways. One bit of news for next week's podcast. Midas Claddon, it's May next week, so there will be another prize draw coming up next week. We'll announce what the prize is going to be on next week's podcast, so look out for that. But that's it. Ben Eubank 2 is over. We'll see you again next week. Remember, Borough fans, don't say typical Borough. Watch it, listen to it, and we'll get going again next week, boys. Up the Borough.
Up the Borough.
Up the Borough. I just thought of a name. Graham Ben Deera.